Thank you, everybody, for joining our webinar today, 2026 Trends and Predictions. I'm Mark Shaman. I'll be giving you the information around what we're really seeing out in the marketplace when it comes to where the overall analytics and the AI market is going and some of the big trends and what we're predicting to happen in the future, especially as it happens around AI. So let's really first jump into some of the demographics of this research that we did around the market and market trends. We actually went out and got insight from over 101 senior data and AI leaders. And these are key leaders who are driving AI and data strategies within their companies. And when we looked at the roles, 80% of those roles were actually from central data and central IT teams. So they were really looking at the overall strategy and the overall implementation of initiatives in the company and broader, corporate-wide initiatives. These people that we actually talked to were mostly director plus. So we were talking to senior level people at the company, really getting insight into, people who made those critical decisions on the direction their companies were going. The company size, 81% of them had 5,000 employees or more. And these spanned, from those 5,000 up to some of the global 100 companies. And it went across numerous industries that we looked into, from finance to technology to healthcare to manufacturing, and then others, which were like travel and transportation and others, entertainment. When we actually talked to these individuals and got their insight into, their data and AI strategies, what they're doing within their organizations, 62% of these organizations were actually based in North America. We had 30% that were based in Western Europe, and then 8% were in other, which was, Asia Pacific and then the Middle East as well. And, these are really the enterprises that we interacted with are the enterprises that are shaping the future of data AI across the industry. So we really got some great insight that, was the foundation for these trends and predictions. So, interesting enough, and not surprising, is the top data and AI priority for 2026 for over 50%, 65% of these organizations that we talked to was, enabling agentic analytics and AI-driven decision-making. So these organizations, they're not just like trying things out. They're really moving forward with implementing agentic AI and agentic analytics within their organization to really drive value and business insight. So we're really at that phase where, the majority of organizations are really, this is a top priority. They're getting that, the marching orders from upper management, from the board of directors, and they're saying, hey, this is the direction we should be going to improve efficiency and drive value within our company. And they're driving this forward by implementing agentic analytics and AI-driven decision-making. So we also looked into why are these organizations actually adopting AI? And there is a thought in the marketplace, the reason that a lot of organizations are adopting agentic AI within their companies is really to drive down costs. And in interacting with these market-leading organizations, we found that not to be the case. Over half of these organizations, when we actually talked to them, the number one thing and the number one driver for them for adopting AI was really to increase productivity and drive faster innovation within their organization. So what they're really looking for AI to do is really drive and improve the efficiency of their workforce that they have today. Make them, the time to value that they can drive within the organization, shrinking that time to value. Really shrinking how long it takes to get business insight and innovate within their organization, and really improving the overall efficiency of a worker so that they can actually, get answers faster, make decisions faster, and really drive that innovation within organizations. So it's really, that goal of driving innovation is the key one that organizations are looking to adopt AI. So there are data challenges that a lot of these organizations are facing when it comes to AI. And these are the top ones when we actually interacted with these data leaders across all these industries. One of the big ones is lack of unified AI ready data. They have fragmented data across their organization. And when they're trying to implement AI initiatives, it's very, very difficult for them when the AI is trying to, the agentic AI application or the agent is trying to, get insight into what's going on, answer the business question, and data is fragmented across the organization. So it's really AI ready data is one of the biggest ones. Second was really data quality, being able to trust the data that they have. And the third one is really being able to provide context to that AI agent. It's really that lack of a semantic layer with consistent business definitions is one of the big data challenges that a lot of organizations are facing. They're starting to realize that, when an AI agent is going in and trying to answer a question, they need to understand not only what data exists, but also the context surrounding that data as well. So these are some of the key AI data and AI challenges that we saw a lot of organizations facing now when it comes to driving forward these initiatives. So then when it comes to the overall data infrastructure, and one of the big barriers that they're finding when it comes to AI, and this kind of relates to that number one data problem as well, is that siloed data is a big infrastructure problem. I have data that is in multiple different data repositories and databases across my organization, and there's not that single pane of glass or that easy way for my AI agent to access that data and gain insight. And then on top of that, it's also the lack of governance infrastructure as well. So now with AI agents, when you're executing a query or a question, and that AI agent is going out there and trying to access the data and get insight from that data and give a response back, you need the proper governance in place and that governance infrastructure in place to make sure that the data is protected and that the AI agent isn't accessing data it shouldn't, and vulnerabilities associated with it. So 70% of the respondents list this as one of the main barriers to driving forward these enterprise AI initiatives, these problems they have to solve around, hey, I've got lots of siloed data and I need robust governance to ensure that I have safe data. I'm actually in compliance. And so these are some of the key things that organizations really need to be thinking about. And these market leading companies are thinking about and saying, hey, you have to solve these barriers when you're going to drive forward enterprise agentic AI initiatives. So when it came to the overall top initiatives that a lot of organizations are moving forward with in the 2026 timeframe, the number one top one was really generative AI copilot and assistance. So really that thing, you can write something, for, the AI agent can write something for you, queries, code, email, summaries, etc. It can explain results of data. It can actually transform data, answer questions, guide through complex steps, etc. That whole type of initiatives are one of the top initiatives, those AI initiatives for 2026. One of the other initiatives that a lot of organizations are driving forward is agentic analytics, really connecting analytics to the corporate data and gaining more insight from that data. It's really in these polls and actually in this research, we found that a lot of organizations really want to open up their data to a broader user base and make that self-service much, much easier. So they're not limited by just standard reporting. Really, they're giving this power into their user base that they didn't have previously. So really giving them more access to that corporate data. Of course, also a component of it is customer-facing agentic applications. where a customer can come in and they can ask questions around, let me get insight into my account, or get insight into what products you have, or numerous other components. So, and then of course, agentic AI workflows, really that continuation from a prompt to a business outcome, where, it's making through, it executes a real operation. So I'm asking a question through my agentic AI and a query, and then it's building a report, a table, it's putting in a ticket, it's doing forecasting, et cetera. So it's really from that, that execution through that pipeline, and actually, creating something that is useful to leverage. And of course, just internal agentic AI applications within the company itself. So what we're really seeing is that when you're looking for driving forward these AI initiatives, these market leading organizations across all these industries, they span both internal as well as external. So that's one thing you need to really be thinking about when driving forward your agentic AI initiatives, in 2026 and going forward, is how do you build a foundation that can support both the internal and external type of workloads that you're going to need to support moving forward. So what we also found out is interacting with these market leading organizations who are driving forward analytics and AI, is that 95% of these companies plan to leverage a Lakehouse to support AI initiatives. We saw that 63% are already currently leveraging the data Lakehouse for AI, and 32% not yet, but they're really planning to. So the reality is, if you as an organization, or your organization is looking to leverage AI or drive new AI initiatives forward, a foundational component of that is really a Lakehouse. And this is really the trend that we're seeing, is organizations are looking to the Lakehouse to be that linchpin to really enable, agentic AI, and really becoming that de facto data infrastructure for those AI initiatives. So when we looked into it, we asked them, well, why are you looking to the Lakehouse for agentic AI? Why is there value there? So the top reasons that they said to us, and the insight that we got from this report was, one was that aspect of unified data access, that component that there's a data problem a lot of them face, and they're looking to the Lakehouse to be that solution to that problem. They have that pain point. The Lakehouse is going to enable them to have that unified data access. One thing that Dremio really, prides ourselves on is that ability to provide in our Lakehouse environment the unified access. And that's, apparently important, really important when it comes to agentic analytics and agentic AI, because that AI agent needs to come in and then rapidly be able to access that data, in the Lakehouse or other platforms, and have context and understanding of that as well. Of course, easier self-service analytics. This is one thing that I mentioned earlier, is, they want to drive efficiency of their workforce, really enabling workers to have direct access to the data and very easily access and ask questions and gain insight into data that they have within their companies. Being able to look at a customer and say, okay, well, not just a Tableau report, but really ask real-time questions and get insight into maybe what one of their customer base is doing, et cetera. And then another component is really future-proofing AI and agentic initiatives, is building, as I mentioned earlier, building that Lakehouse, that open Lakehouse platform, is really building the data foundation for agentic initiatives, not only for this year, but going forward in the future. Really having that platform that links into the next one, that provides that scalability to handle that workload that agentic analytics is really putting on it. In the future, in the past, of course, when you had just standard reports, you had a report, you ran the report, you got a report, your report back, and you had your visualizations, et cetera. But now with agentic analytics, you're actually, the AI agent is producing lots of queries and executing those queries against the data platform. And your data platform needs that performance and scalability to really be able to handle those type of workloads. And that's what a Lakehouse brings to the table. And that's why we're really seeing organizations at that 90+% really looking at the Lakehouse as that linchpin foundational component of their data component of their AI strategy. So we really believe moving forward that the workloads in the Lakehouse will continue to increase. So we really think that because of the value proposition that the Lakehouse brings for AI and agentic AI, and organizations really looking at that as the next wave, the big to gain insight, to gain efficiency within their companies, to gain faster business insight, is that 75% of all data and AI workloads will be supported by the Lakehouse in the next 3 years. So organizations, and we've seen it already interacting with our customers and actually talking to this wide array of data leaders, is they're moving off of proprietary legacy platforms and really looking at the value that an open, standards-based, flexible Lakehouse can bring to their overall AI and analytical infrastructure. And because of that, the workloads are really moving to this platform that gives the flexibility to have multiple engines executing on the data within that one environment, really giving the value proposition of a very, very flexible, open, and scalable environment. So we really believe that 75% of all data and AI workloads will be supported in the Lakehouse, in the next 3 years. As organizations realize there's a value in moving off of legacy platforms, there's a cost advantage, there's a performance advantage, there's a management advantage, and the overall trend, hey, I'm moving these new AI initiatives, and those AI initiatives, I'm starting and leveraging the Lakehouse as the linchpin of data platform for that. So this really actually fits into some of the other information that we got through this process, the adoption of open table formats. Almost 70% of the organizations that we interacted with will have adopted open table formats by 2026. And, huge benefit for these organizations when adopting open table formats like Iceberg, where they have that flexibility to know that, oh, the data is in this open table format. It's mine. I'm not locked into a proprietary platform. And it's actually able to be leveraged across numerous engines. So it's not just locked into a single vendor. Because it's an open table format, I have that flexibility, and the organizations are really future-proofing their AI and analytical infrastructure. And of course, Dremio, we jumped on board very early when it came to supporting Iceberg, and really believe that there's a huge value proposition to organizations, leveraging open table formats, especially Iceberg. So some of the key predictions that we have moving forward is we really believe that agentic AI will accelerate as I kind of touched on earlier, the movement from workloads from these proprietary traditional platforms, the traditional data warehousing platforms, and continue those platforms and those workloads. And that data will continue to be moving off of those proprietary platforms into the Lakehouse by 2030. We really believe by 2030, 90+% of organizations are really looking to move that data into this more open and flexible infrastructure to support, both their traditional BI workloads, but also all these new agentic AI and AI initiatives moving forward. The second thing is, a unified semantic layer with robust metadata is a linchpin for doing enterprise agentic AI, really providing that context to the AI agent and insight into what data exists, where it exists. And through having that semantic layer, it will replace a lot of the traditional ETL processes as a centerpiece of AI integration and data integration for AI initiatives. So organizations will be moving away from always having to build a pipeline, maintain that pipeline, and and drive that forward for both AI and analytical purposes, and really looking for the unified data access layer with unified access to the data, being able to, through that semantic layer, being able to support a lot of that data integration for AI initiatives moving forward. The third thing in our overall predictions, we really believe in going forward that, the Lakehouse is really a linchpin to enabling effective and successful AI initiatives moving forward. And that companies that really fail to adopt the Lakehouse infrastructure for Agentic AI really will see a doubling of the costs and the time that it takes to implement AI projects. Because, as I talked about earlier, when we looked at some of those big data problems that organizations face for implementing their Agentic AI initiatives, when you look at how a modern Lakehouse platforms like Dremio can solve those problems and eliminate those pain points, companies that don't go in that direction, don't go in the direction of the Lakehouse for these new AI initiatives, will really face that cost component and just the overall time it takes. How do I integrate all my data? How do I deal with my data silos, et cetera, et cetera? So, I've given you a lot of information and insight into, what these market leading companies are doing and what their key problems are and what they're adopting. And, what should you do as an organization? We really believe that, one, you should be looking to position the Lakehouse as the foundational component of analytics and AI initiatives going forward, because it really brings that huge value proposition of unification of the data, the performance, the openness, the scale, all of those components that it really brings to your AI initiatives. The second thing is, you should be really looking to leverage a semantic layer with an enterprise catalog that has rich metadata to support Agentic AI initiatives. Because that AI agent, to really be able to function effectively, especially for enterprise Agentic AI, needs to understand what data exists, and that's what a semantic layer can provide, as well as that semantic layer providing that context as well. What does that data actually mean? And on top of that, also, as I mentioned earlier, that semantic layer and in a robust Lakehouse platform like Dremio also has that governance component as well that is critical when moving forward with agentic analytics. Third thing is, really building a flexible, open foundation through leveraging open table formats. This really enables long-term flexibility, and more than anything, it future-proofs your environment. Because when your data is in an open table format, that means you're not locked into one single vendor, and you have the flexibility to leverage multiple engines on top of that. And it has a huge advantage. So if you're leveraging, one engine today, tomorrow you can be leveraging Dremio, and there's no impact in the tables because they're all open in that open table format. And then the fourth thing is really looking to enable zero ETL data integration, moving away from, always having to duplicate data and move data all over the place. And the goal should be looking to reduce data movement and accelerate insight delivery through these zero ETL processes, through federated access, through processes like that. So that is the insight we have from this report. And here is actually the URL for the full report, so you can see all of the questions we asked and the insight that we got from over that 100 plus data leaders across all those industries as well. So I wanted to thank you for attending our webinar, the trends and predictions, and where we really see the industry today, and these data leaders executing on their new AI and agentic AI initiatives. Thank you.
All right, let's take some questions. Good job, Mark. Thank you for presenting that. Please put your questions in the chat and we'll go through and answer them. We already have a few that have been populating, but obviously just a lot of great data here and a lot of interesting points around adoption and where the future of the open and agentic data lakehouse is going. We got a question that the open table format is great, Mark, but it could be a new security risk. Any thoughts?
So one of the things that we think is important, and that's why we at Dremio, we think if you're utilizing access to those open tables, that open table format, of course, they're at the storage layer, there's encryption at the storage layer. But then when it comes to the access component, that's really where you need robust governance and security policies in place. So for example, in Dremio, we have role-based access control, COM level access control, data encryption, all of those components. So it's very important that you have, both the data and the data encryption level, as well as that execution engine, really the engine that's going to access that data, having that robust security policies and governance policies in place. And that's critical. I mean, that's one of the things that is really critical for agentic AI is that, when we talk about having that semantic layer and having that execution engine, that single pane of glass, is having those robust security policies and, role-based access, COM level access control in place.
Cool. Does that also extend to the semantic layer? Are there any security concerns or risks there?
Well, so the semantic layer is accessed through the execution engine. So all of the security policies that you're a user, your user can access these tables in these areas or these views, and all of that is governed through the engine that is controls that controls the semantic layer.
Amazing. You mentioned metadata will replace ETL in the future. Can you please elaborate on that? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we've seen in a lot of cases was when organizations, a lot of ETL processing, what they will do is they'll say, oh, I need a specific performance profile for, a join of tables or a table. And so what am I doing? I'm actually, through ETL, I'm transforming, I'm loading that data into a specific table. I have my aggregate table structure. And then what we do at Dremio is we actually virtualize a lot of that. So we'll actually create a view on top of the base data. And then from there, under the covers, we have things called reflections. And what reflections will actually do is based on user access patterns, they'll actually dynamically create aggregate structures to accelerate that performance profile. So instead of an organization having to build pipelines every single time especially for a specific workload or performance profile, what we see organizations doing is utilizing what we would call virtual data products. And then under the covers, something like a reflection would then provide the performance profile that's needed to meet the specific workload. So you're not having to go through that ETL process, and do all those transformations and have a pipeline every time you need a specific data structure. You can create that virtually, and that's through metadata. And then under the covers, we do something really cool with reflections that gives it the performance profile that you need. So it's a virtual, through metadata, you have a virtual layer that you access. That virtual layer access gives you the view. And then under the covers, we accelerate.
Amazing. A couple of these rolling in. We got some good questions here. How do you manage different versions of Apache Iceberg, like now V2, V3, future V4? How do you know which data you have in Iceberg, and how about the permissions to read and write? For example, you can do that in an OSS engine and REST like Databricks, Snowflake, etc.
Yeah, I actually don't specifically deal with the management. I don't have insight into version management when it comes to Iceberg. That's something we could definitely follow up with you on. More of this presentation was more giving you insight into some of the trends and predictions that we have around the overall industry and where we see the value proposition of open table formats. But we have an expert at Dremio who actually wrote the book on Iceberg, Alex Merced, and we could actually have a follow up with him since he's the Iceberg expert.
Oh man, yeah, that's I know a lot. He knows more about Iceberg than I think most people.
Yeah.
So how about those OLTP business applications? Should they use Lakehouse as a backend data store, or it should still be separate from the Lakehouse, in your opinion?
Yeah, what we're seeing is that in a lot of cases, the traditional transactional workloads continue to be in the traditional OLTP platforms right now. And then where because of agentic analytics and because of just traditional BI and analytics in general, the majority of the value proposition that we're seeing out of the Lakehouse is really driven by that type of workload versus traditional order entry, update, insert, delete type workload. And the reality is when you're looking at your overall, because transactional systems in most cases, are not looking at data over, 6 months, a year, a long period of time. It's just for that period of time that you're doing the transactions. The heavy lifting for data volumes and then performance when it comes for doing table joins and looking at things such as I'm looking at my supplier data with my warehouse data and looking at it from a product perspective and having to do that type of workload. That's what really shines in a Lakehouse environment. So we're still seeing in trends that when it comes to traditional OLTP workloads, those are your PostgreSQLs, your Oracle still have a lot of that type of workloads, and the Lakehouse in general is more centered in on the analytical side. Though we are seeing some organizations doing lighter OLTP in the Lakehouse itself, we're really seeing the agentic analytics, AI type workloads being Lakehouse focused.
Amazing. Got about two more, Mark. So
Okay.
again, you've been doing a great job. Everyone's pretty pumped about all this. You mentioned eliminating ETL layer, which typically produces custom curated summarized data layer for business needs, right? Now,
Right.
by limiting those, wouldn't that impact the compute costs going against the raw data? And what is the future of the bronze, silver, and gold data layers in Lakehouse, in your opinion?
Right. So that's one of the things, the unique things that I kind of mentioned earlier when it comes to Dremio, and when we build out data products, um, is the ability. So when we look at it, the bronze layer really is the same. That kind of raw bronze layer will continue to be the same. But when you're looking at the silver and gold layers, what we're seeing, instead of there being a lot of transformations in that layer, that is where we're seeing more of the virtualization through things like views. And then you ask, oh, well, what about the compute cost? So that's where Dremio special sauce reflections really come into play. Because in what we'll do is based on a workload. Let's say, for example, I actually am doing a join of two tables, and I have a thing called a raw reflection. And it doesn't mean that every time I'm actually going to actually execute against those two tables and do that join, I have to go grab those two tables and join them together every single time. So what a reflection will actually do, it will actually have that pre-computed, pre-compiled, materialization of that join. So when a user comes in, it will actually the optimizer is smart enough to know, hey, I can actually execute against that reflection. It will hit that reflection and then give that response time back using very, very small amount of compute versus having to go through that join process every single time. And one of the great things about reflections is we actually not only will we auto create the reflections, that when the base table, let's say I have Iceberg tables that exist within my environment, when those tables are updated, they automatically update the reflection. So it's not like it's rebuilding the reflection every single time it needs to query. So it really decreases that overall compute cost because you're not going against the base table every single time. The optimizer is smart enough to know, hey, I'm going to hit the reflection. I'm going to give you that response time in sub-second, and but it maintains it, creates it, and everything else under the covers.
Speaking of under the covers, we got one last question around that. Is reflections under the covers like a materialized view with real-time auto refresh?
It's similar to that, but it's more than just a traditional materialized view, because we have things because both a raw and aggregate reflection. So it can be a representation of a single table. It can actually be a representations of a join of multiple tables, and then it can be an aggregation as well. So it has a broad capability. It not only, but one of the great things about it is it does have that auto update capability. The optimizer does auto rewrite of the query to execute against that reflection. But the great thing with our autonomous reflections is that you don't actually have to create the materialized view. You don't actually have to set it up initially. What we do is we actually look at the workloads that are going on the system, and then the engine is smart enough to understand that, hey, I can actually accelerate workloads by creating a reflection. It does it dynamically under the covers and creates that data structure and enables your workload to be accelerated. So it's similar in some aspects of a materialized view, an auto update materialized view, but it does have other capabilities outside of that make it even broader and more effective.
All right, we got a couple more rolling in. We thought we were done here, but the people are engaged. So if I understand correctly, Dremio has nothing to do with the data governance layer. Is that correct or no?
No. Data governance is, for example, what users can access what data at what point in time. I can look at data lineage as a data governance component. We have all of that managed within our environment. The secondary thing is we actually have a data catalog as well, our Dremio's open catalog that's built on Apache Polaris. So that governance of the data we actually do as well through our open catalog. So yes, no, we actually 100% do a lot of data governance capabilities with the Dremio engine, with both the data access components, having data lineage, having the components of having that data catalog, and all the capabilities that we bring to the table under the data catalog as well.
All right. Final question, hopefully, or not. Hopefully got a few more. Does Dremio leverage cloud native resources, or is it only SaaS? I think that's actually a little bit more complicated.
Yes. So Dremio actually has two models. One is our software as a service, which is our Dremio cloud solution, which is basically that easy button that you can push. And we'll actually send out a link to, we have a free trial that you could actually just go in and we allow you to try it for free. And it's easy to get it up and running within minutes. You'll have your environment that you can try out. That is our SaaS offering. We also have Dremio software, which is runs in a Kubernetes-based environment. And that allows organizations to run that basically on premises if they choose to within their own hardware environment or their private cloud environment, or they can run it in your virtual private cloud within AWS, within Azure, etc. So we basically have these two models. One is the value of the SaaS model, and the second one is the software component. So we really bring flexibility. So if a customer is, let's say they're a banking customer and they have an on-prem environment, or they have their own, virtual private cloud within AWS, and they don't want their data ever being outside of that or any of their compute outside of that, we support both of those as well.
All right. Another question. I think this is Alexander here's got the most questions of anyone here. Can I bring my own governance layer into the Dremio engine?
So we do. There are other components. I'd have to, Alexander, I'd have to follow up with you and understand what your specific tool sets that you're utilizing for governance. And we could follow up with you on that and see what you have. But we do have other solutions and third-party solutions that we do integrate with that help out with that overall governance process.
Fantastic. I think we're good. Mark, crushed it. Thank you so much for your time and your intelligence and just presenting this. And I want to thank everyone here for joining this session today. Just super informative. And remember, you'll be getting the presentation and the paper and access to recording as well. So all these materials. And remember, we do have a free trial of Dremio. You get $400 in free credits. It's on our website. If you like it, our AI Agentic Lakehouse is, I know even I'm using it. I'm not a data engineer or data professional. So our other members on our team, including the events marketing team and demand gen. So everyone, we're all in it. So feel free to give it a go. And if you like it, definitely spread the word. Anything else?
I second what Whit is saying here. I highly recommend that you just go on our website and try it. It's super, super easy to click a button. If you have a CSV file, you can upload some data. You can use our AI agent and just instantaneously start asking questions and getting insight. It's awesome to try out and use. So I highly recommend it.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Rest of your day. Have a great week. And we'll see you all at the next one.
Thank you.